Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to go over the Marvel Phase 4 schedule. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent Cassina, and today we're going over the Marvel Phase 4 schedule, which was revealed 2 days ago at San Diego Comic-Con 2019 on the Saturday. It is now Monday. Everyone else has done their takes, and I have not watched any of them, maybe one or two. But I know you guys wanted my take, so here's what it is. Underwhelming, I think. And I think it's underwhelming because there aren't many surprises on this other than, 3 movies, I think? Everything else we knew about, we knew was happening. We knew about a lot of this stuff because the TV shows had been announced or the deals had been talked about this person's joining the cast, or we think these people are joining the cast, and it was kind of pseudo-official. Like most of the Eternals cast we knew were in talks or official, and some other things were announced, and that was surprising, but none of this is the slam bang Phase 3 announcement of Captain America Civil War, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and Infinity War Part 1 and 2. Where, I remember, I didn't watch that announcement, but I was, following along live when it happened. And initially, Captain America 3, was announced as, Captain America versus the Serpent Society. And then Kevin Feige was like, oh, wait, that's not the real title. And then it was boom, Civil War. And, coming out the same year as Batman v Superman. So that was very interesting and a big surprise announcement. Everything here, half the stuff we knew about and the other stuff is not that exciting. There's some surprises at the end that I think are more exciting than just the names of the titles. But so let's go through it. So chronologically, project by project, and then we'll talk about them overall. So first thing that is up is next May 1st, 2020. This is the first part of Phase 4 is Black Widow. That is a movie. We already knew this was happening. We knew they were shooting in, I don't know where it was. They're shooting in Europe somewhere. We spotted Taskmaster on set, seen his costume, and wasn't really crazy about it. We knew that David Harbour was part of the cast. We knew that Yelena Belova, the character, was going to be part of this movie. And now we know she's played by Florence Pugh, who you may know from what just came out, Midsommar. And also she was in Fighting With My Family, where she played Paige, the wrestler. That is her as a blonde instead of a brunette. And she's a very good actress. I watched that wrestling movie. It's pretty good. Check it out if you haven't watched it yet. Pretty entertaining. And I like Paige too. So we knew that was happening. Was not a big surprise. What we don't know is if this is an tale of the past, similar to the way that Captain Marvel was, or if this is something brand new entirely. Somehow she comes back from Endgame. I don't think it will happen. I think this is just a capstone on Scarlett Johansson's Marvel contract. And this, it wouldn't be surprising to me if this was the last thing she did for Marvel since her character's dead. Now, could they do another Black Widow movie if this one is really successful? Yes, they could. They could make it a tale set in the past again. We could go see her in Hawkeye in Budapest, even though that happened before the first Avengers movie. So that would be they'd have to age them up a whole lot. But, there are many tales they can tell with Black Widow. They can give her own TV show on Disney Plus if they want to, although I don't think that these big stars are going to be down for that TV show commitment. The next thing that we're going to see from the Marvel Universe in 2020 is a TV show. This is Falcon and Winter Soldier. Now, we knew this was happening. It's kind of confirmed that being Captain America is going to be part of this show because the logo has Captain America's shield. And if you remember the end of Endgame, Cap gave his shield to Falcon, to Sam Wilson, to be the next Captain America, we presume. So if this is the journey for him to be the next Captain America, cool. I'm down. Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan have a great chemistry. It should be a great show. I think the only disappointing thing is that all of these Disney Plus shows that were announced when they launched or announced Disney Plus a couple months ago, they're all coming in at least a year, more than a year away, which is disconcerting because it pretty much means that the only thing Disney Plus is launching with is probably that Mandalorian Star Wars show that we know or is shooting or is almost done shooting. Nothing else has been like broken ground on or anything like that, and that is a little disconcerting for me if we're banking on these shows to carry Disney Plus. For Disney Plus to only have one show, and this is kind of a separate conversation entirely, when it launches, that's brand new, might be dangerous. Hopefully they have more new content before this Marvel stuff starts kicking in, but gotta get with the program, and this stuff is a long ways away. None of this, other than Black Widow, none of this has been shot yet, I think. So, the last thing we're getting in 2020 is the Eternals movie. Now, if you don't know, this is kind of like Kevin Feige's fuck you to Ike Perlmutter, who is the CEO of Marvel, and him and Kevin Feige, the main producer on the Marvel Studios films, butted heads a lot. They don't like each other, and so much so that Marvel and Marvel Studios are like two separate entities underneath the Disney banner, instead of Marvel Studios being underneath Marvel in terms of like the corporate structure once they got absorbed into Disney. Kevin Feige has enough power and bandwidth and stuff that he went to Bob Iger and says, I don't want to report to this guy, he's a jerk, I want to report straight to you. And so they did that. So they're separate. So, that's why you see Marvel like comics pulling stuff from the movies all the time, because there's no synchronicity anymore. It's Marvel Studios doing its own thing, pulling from the comics, doing whatever they want, and Marvel Comics going, wait, what are you guys doing? Hey, can you clue me in? Oh, that movie's out. Can we get an advanced review? Okay, so we can pump something out to tie in 3 months later, and, they're kind of behind the curve on this stuff. So that's unfortunate. But Ike Perlmutter really wanted to do an Inhumans movie, and if you go back to that Phase 3 announcement a few years ago, you will see Inhumans as a movie in, 2020 or 2019 or whatever. That ended up not happening, and instead we got the one season of the Inhumans TV show with the incredibly bad cast, the incredibly bad hair, incredibly bad effects, just terrible. I didn't even watch it. I just watched the trailers and said, nope, I'm not giving this any of my time because it does not deserve it. It looks like a cash-in, like a rush job, and it doesn't look like they loved the Inhumans at all. So you can throw that aside. It'll never come into play again. Maybe they'll relaunch them when they bring in the Fantastic Four later on. Who knows? Who knows if any of these Marvel TV shows matter outside the ones we're talking about now, because everything's on the table, and we'll get to that in a second. So, 2021. Anyway, okay. I never explained who the Eternals were. So the Eternals are kind of like the Inhumans. Both are offshoots of the human race, and that were modified by other beings. The Inhumans were modified by the Kree, which is an alien race. They came and experimented on an early version of humanity, and they created the Inhumans, who are not born with superpowers, but they are changed by this Terrigen mist when they become of age at 18, 16, whatever, it varies. And then they get your inherent power is unlocked at that time. And you could change into a fish man, you could get cool superpowers and look really normal, or you could look really weird and have no superpowers. You could get warts all over your skin, and that would be it. Eternals is similar in that it's an early version of man that was changed by the Celestials and split off into two groups. The Eternals, which live forever and beautiful and have superpowers, think like an immortal Superman and immortal Flash. And then the Deviants, which are like these ugly monster creature things. So there are two things that are constantly at war. The Eternals live off in space, or they don't really get involved. And I think Thanos might be an Eternal in the comics. I don't know if that's going to end up being a thing in the movies, but we'll get there. Angelina Jolie is part of this cast, as well as Richard Madden, who is King Robb Stark from the early seasons of Game of Thrones. He's the other notable person in this cast that I can think of off the top of my head. Now, 2021, we get Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So this is pretty much an Asian cast. This is an Asian movie. This is to placate all of those people who were so pissed off when Iron Fist, the TV show, came out, and they were upset that Iron Fist was not Asian in this new interpretation. This is like to placate those guys. This is all Kung Fu, Kung Asian, I don't know, whatever. It just doesn't excite me, other than the Ten Rings is an allusion, a reference to the Mandarin. And if you had watched one of the Marvel one-shots after Iron Man 3, you would know that Trevor, who is playing the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, is not the real Mandarin, and there is a real Mandarin out there, and he sent a guy to kill Trevor in that little Marvel one-shot. Go track that down if you have not seen it. It's on one of the Blu-rays. It's probably online. Go check that out. So anyway, Shang-Chi is going to be battling the Mandarin instead of Iron Man, which is traditionally the Mandarin is his villain. But this is kind of supposed to be looping together a bunch of seeds that have been planted since Iron Man 1. If you remember Iron Man 1, the terrorist organization that kidnapped Tony and tried to get him to build a weapon for them was the Ten Rings. So everybody thought that was going to come to fruition with the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. Turns out, nope, not the real guy. So now we're getting a real Asian Mandarin, a real Asian superhero in Shang-Chi, whose, I think, only power is the power of Kung Fu. He's just really good at martial arts. He's the best in the world, apparently. But other than that, no real superpower. So similar to Batman. But all Kung Fu, all Asian, and no gadgets, no costume, maybe. Awkwafina is part of this cast. I don't know about Awkwafina. She kind of grates on me a little bit. So this could be an interesting. It's got an Asian director. So like I said, this is the all-Asian movie. So everybody who was upset about Iron Fist, you better go see this movie 10 times, or else basically it's you made all this noise, we giving you what you want, then you better go see it. Similar to how Black Panther became a cultural phenomenon, I think they're kind of hoping this is the same thing within the Asian community and the rest of the world. This plays into China, into Japan, and those big box office countries in the Asian market. So they're betting heavily on this film for sure. Even though it doesn't seem like a heavy hitter, they're betting that this is going to do $1 billion, probably, maybe a little, who knows. But based on the all Asian factor, they're betting heavily on this film, especially in China. Okay, so 2021, still talking about it. In spring 21, we have WandaVision. This is another Disney Plus TV show. Now, Wanda is coming back. Apparently, Vision's coming back. We're getting Monica Rambeau, who is Photon or Captain Marvel sometimes in the comics. She's the African-American Captain Marvel from the 80s or 90s, I think. So she's also the little girl in the Captain Marvel movie you saw a couple months ago. She's all grown up. They describe the show as weird. That's pretty much it. But apparently, this leads straight into the next movie, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, this is the one that has me the most excited. I think this, I really liked the first Doctor Strange. I liked Benedict Cumberbatch. I like him in general. My wife Amanda does not at all for some reason. But I really thought the first Doctor Strange movie was a really strong outing from, a director stepping into some big shoes. And, an all-around great movie. One of the better origin movies Marvel has made recently. So this is supposed to expand whatever happens in WandaVision. Apparently Scarlet Witch is also in this movie. So this is Marvel basically telling you that you need to subscribe to Disney Plus and watch all of these shows if you want to follow the Marvel Universe in its totality. Unlike the Marvel Netflix shows, which you didn't need to watch in order to follow the movies, or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or Inhumans, or whatever probably won't come after that. S.H.I.E.L.D. is getting canceled. Finally, they should have canceled it 3 seasons ago, in my opinion, but I haven't watched it since then. That was pretty boring, pretty terrible show most of the time. In my opinion, I know it has its lovers out there. But anyway, now they're weaving, the TV and movies together the way it should have been from the beginning if they had been planning, together. But now that Marvel Studios has its own TV line and movie line, they're weaving it all together so that it interlocks and that you have to pay all the money for the privilege of watching them all. Anyway, the Multiverse of Madness. Are we going into the dark dimension? Are we going into other alternate dimensions? We had some of this in Spider-Man Homecoming with the idea of Mysterio before we found out he's a bad guy. Wink, wink. If you didn't figure that out, you're silly. So that's that. Then, that's May 7th, 2021. Somehow in spring 2021, which they have this after I'm looking at the graphic right here, if that's what you're wondering. After Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, still spring. So is June spring? Is late May spring? Anyway, we have the Loki TV show. Now, this was also announced months ago with the Disney Plus presentation as Tom Hiddleston returning to being Loki, and then we were all kind of wondering how that's going to happen. Then because he died at the beginning of Infinity War. Then we saw Endgame and saw Loki come back. So apparently this is the time-traveling Loki from 2012 having other adventures in the Marvel Universe. Where this goes, who knows? So this is bad guy Loki. This is not reformed Thor 3 Loki at all. So it should be fun. Tom Hiddleston's very likable. It seems like he's tried other things. I did like him in Kong Skull Island, but he's not being reused again. They're not making a sequel to that film. They're just rolling that into the Godzilla franchise. So sorry, Tom Hiddleston. That part is over. He was trying to do some other things, but it feels like his career is going to be inextricably tied to Marvel, and he's cashing in on that, which I applaud him for. More Loki's always a good thing, and there are certainly his fans that love him as Loki. Then summer 2021. Now, this is not tied into the Marvel Universe, maybe in any way, but this is the What If show. This is a cartoon series from Marvel on Disney Plus. There you go again. And this is going to be alternate versions of stories that you thought you knew or that you've seen already. So the conceit of What If is it was a comic in the Marvel Comics, and it was basically saying, what if Cap had died instead of Bucky early on in World War II? Or one of the episodes I think they talked about for this show is, what if Peggy Carter had received the super soldier serum and not Steve Rogers? And then, so they change a basic fundamental of a story in a big way, and then kind of go down that rabbit hole to see where that might lead. So that's a cartoon show. They had a big shot of all the returning Marvel actors that were going to be doing voices for this cartoon show. Jeffrey Wright from Westworld and Syriana and Casino Royale is going to be the voice of the Watcher, who's kind of the guy that's going to be hosting this. He's kind of in this show, he might be more like the Crypt Keeper than anything else, but he's kind of our Rod Sterling Twilight Zone host guy. So he's watching over the multiverse, I guess this takes place in. So that's that. When I saw this cast list of this, though, I was kind of wondering, where are all the heavy hitters? They had Chris Hemsworth on there. They did not have Chris Evans. They did not have Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. as being locked in for this voice cast. So how are you going to tell Iron Man or Captain America stories? I guess you're not. Their contracts are truly done, Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. And that's a sad thing because that can be really fun to do with the show. But there's hope as they develop this What If show that comes out in 2 years. Maybe they're going to get great scripts and go to those guys and be like, here is something really fun. We think you would like it. Maybe those guys will do it. Fingers crossed. Robert Downey Jr. seems to think that he is not tied to Iron Man. He is not Tony Stark in everyone's minds. Unfortunately, Robert, you are not Tony Stark in your mind, but you are Tony Stark in all of our minds and hearts forever and ever and ever. I'm sorry. It's a fact. It's been 10 years, dude. You're the guy. Just go talk to Tom Welling and see if people don't think he's still Superman. All right? He's still Superman. Until we get a better one. I mean, we have Henry Cavill, but Tom Welling, when you see him on TV, you go, oh, Superman. Same thing with you, bud. I'm sorry. Okay. Fall 2021. So these are coming fast and quick. This is a lot to happen within 2 years. This is 2020 to 2021. All this whole phase. Hawkeye, the TV show. Jeremy Renner doing a TV show on Disney Plus. Gotta subscribe. Going to be training a new Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. This is pulling from the Matt Fraction, David Aja comics from a couple years ago, which were great. But, even the logo is straight off of that logo type. Like, this is nothing original. This is not an original logo from Marvel. They're like, this works, and they just pulled it. So that's that. It may change before we see it. You never know. They probably may not want to pay that guy a whole lot of money to use his logo. Unfortunately for him, I'm pretty sure this is going to change. But it's a great logo. They should use it. But they also said this is going to be exploring his time as Ronin. And I'm like, how? Unless it's like flashbacks, like he's training Kate Bishop and then has flashbacks to the time before the blip, ended, or the time after the blip, as they called it in Spider-Man Far From Home. So that's what I'm thinking. So you're going to get Hawkeye and Kate Bishop and half, Ronin, Hawkeye being a badass, killing people. And probably dealing with PTSD, I would imagine, because that's a hard thing to go through. And especially at the end of the show when you let your best friend die, Black Widow, sorry, and then your family comes back. Then the last thing that was officially announced with the infographic, Thor, Love and Thunder. Now, just last week we had found out that Taika Waititi was coming back to direct Thor 4. On stage, you had Chris Hemsworth said, I'm coming back. You had Tessa Thompson, who was Valkyrie in Thor Ragnarok, said, I'm coming back. And unfortunately, they need it because Men in Black International, which they both starred in, did not do that well, and apparently wasn't a very good movie. Didn't see it. It's not in theaters anymore. I tried to see Dark Phoenix last week, and it's not even in theaters anymore. And it came out after Men in Black, so it's very difficult. But when a movie doesn't do well, they make room for other things that are doing well, I guess. So then the biggest surprise, well, not the biggest, one of the two biggest surprises of this panel, they said, guys, guess what? Natalie Portman is coming back. And everybody went, oh, you mean that girl that did the first two movies as a love interest and then once those movies were over, talked badly about the Marvel Universe and how, well, not really badly, but she just said, like, I'm not interested in doing those types of roles anymore. I didn't really enjoy making those films. And I was like, well, if you're going to be a sourpuss, we don't want you in our universe anymore. Well, apparently they backed up the dump truck and a big story for her to return. She did return in Endgame, which everybody was like, oh, cool. She was only in it for a second. Blink if you miss her kind of thing. But she apparently is going to be adopting the female Thor role from the recent Jason Aaron run in the Thor comics where Jane Foster picks up the hammer Mjolnir when Thor becomes unworthy, and whosoever be worthy shall hold this hammer and have the power of Thor. It's on the side of the hammer there, and she becomes Thor. It's a great run if you haven't read it. Pick it up with the first volume is called The God Butcher, and that's Thor, dealing with a bunch of other stuff. And then, after 3 or 4 volumes of that, then he becomes unworthy, and then it's Lady Thor. It's called The Mighty Thor, I think, at that point. Art by Russell Dodderman, and that just wrapped up with the War of the Realms crossover. And now, in this Marvel Universe, the comics anyway, Jane Foster is now Valkyrie, the new Valkyrie. So, there you go. So that was kind of like the last big thing. And then as they were leaving, they were like, oh yeah, we didn't have time to talk about Black Panther 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, The Mutants, The Fantastic Four. But we do want to announce Mahershala Ali as Blade. That was the big news to me. Mahershala Ali has won 2 Oscars 2 years in a row, I believe. He won for Moonlight for Best Actor, I think. And then he won for Green Book last year for Best Supporting Actor. Now, my wife's going, who is Mahershala Ali? And I was like, you don't know Mahershala Ali, but not very many people might know him because maybe they don't watch his shows. You might know him. He was Boggs in the Mockingjay, Catching Fire. Damn it, the last two Hunger Games movies, whatever those were called, the final two. He was like one of the captains of the army that was taking Katniss through the Capitol. He was in those two. He was great. He was also in House of Cards for the first couple seasons. He was great in that. He was also in Luke Cage, the Netflix show, as Cottonmouth for the first half of the first season. Now, you're getting confused. You're saying, wait, he's already been in a Marvel property. He's already got a role. How can he be Blade and Cottonmouth at the same time? Well, number one, sorry to tell you, this is a couple years old, but Cottonmouth's dead. So, that's out of the way. But this brings up my point from, 20 minutes ago, where those Marvel Netflix shows maybe don't matter, maybe don't count. Because if you can have him as Blade, then maybe they don't need to acknowledge that the same guy was Cottonmouth. So boom. So now that frees up Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, The Punisher are all free reign to come back into the Marvel Universe at a later date with a different person playing them. Or even those actors playing a different character in the Marvel Universe. So I think it's good news for everybody concerned. Even though I did like those versions of those characters for Daredevil and Luke Cage anyway. So that was the last thing they announced. And they did say, yes, we're working on Fantastic Four. He said the mutants, but he didn't say when. So I guess Phase 4, since it's only 2 years, is going to be, who knows if Guardians 3 happens. I don't think it will. James Gunn on Twitter said he is still doing Guardians 3. That is still true. But he's going to do the Suicide Squad movie first for DC, and then he will do Guardians 3. So that's probably 4 years out, 3 or 4 years out, which would put it into, if this is the end of Phase 4, this Thor Love and Thunder movie, that would be Phase 5. And then I imagine you would see Blade in that Phase 5 unless they start putting other things in here. So you're going, wait, how is this just so jam-packed and you're underwhelmed, Brent? Well, I guess I'm used to the Marvel stuff being movie-focused, and this is not movie-focused. It's spread out across the two. So how many movies are we getting? We've been getting 3 a year from Marvel since Avengers, I think. So 2020, we're getting 2 movies, Black Widow and Eternals, and we're getting a TV show. Okay, so that's 3 things. 2021, we're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things. Basically, everything after Eternals is all 2021. 7 things, so let's count them. TV shows in 2021, WandaVision, that's 1. Loki, that's 2. What If, that's 3. And Hawkeye, that's 4. So, movies, we're getting Shang-Chi, that's 1. Doctor Strange, that's 2. And then Thor, that's 3. So, 7. So I guess that is kind of the regular Marvel schedule of movies and stuff. So this phase is not as long. There is more in it because of these TV shows. So I'll be interested to see what goes on. Whereas Phase 3, we had this 4 or 5 year plan. It was really long when they announced it. So I don't know. I'm just underwhelmed. There's no Avengers movie here. There's no big character. There's no Captain America. There's no Iron Man. Obviously, their stories are over. And there's no Black Panther 2, which was confusing. That was their biggest hit, along with Captain Marvel, but her movie just came out. But I thought maybe we'd see a Black Panther 2 sooner than later. The Guardians but scheduling thing, surprises me that it's not Phase 4. So that's a little strange, but hey man, it is what it is. And we got plenty of Guardians in those 2 Avengers movies, I think, so maybe that's why we don't get them right away in Phase 4. They're giving them space to breathe and to figure out whether or not they're going to still have Gamora in the universe or not as part of the Guardians, I bet. So, what does this mean for Thor and the Guardians? Because we saw him go off in the ship at the end of Endgame. I don't think he's going to be in the next Guardians movie, guys. I think that is done. I think that was just a thing that was cool. And now that Hemsworth is coming back for this, I don't think he will be with the Guardians. So that's that. Well, that's unfortunate. I think it would have been great, but oh well. So all in all, Phase 4, I'm excited to see it all. This is a lot of content to watch. I mean, I'm excited to see it all. I don't know how I'm going to watch all this stuff. I cannot keep up with the Netflix shows and the DC Universe shows that I want to watch now, much less anything else that I want to watch on Hulu or any other thing. This is going to be a bear. This is going to be a trial by fire. But we're going to cover it all here on BK's Bullets sooner or later, so stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. What has you most excited about Marvel Phase 4? Let me know down in the comments. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe, let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, we will see you guys in the funny pages.